yes, it's the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help you maximize your use of marketing automation and CRM, CheshireImpact.com. Bam. Now, today's guest is so cool. I got to introduce you. I can't wait for you to hear him talk. He's got a book. He is the CRM Guy. That's what they call him. That's his wife even calls him that, I think. He's the CEO of Juicy Results. He's an author. Awesome book. I've got a copy here. The 7 Habits for Scalable Sales Teams. We're going to dive into it. He's the host of a podcast that's recently been refreshed, and it's back on the prowl, called The New Customer Machine. I love the machine. He's a hustler. He's an entrepreneur and an all-around badass. Jeremy Pound, how are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. I'm excited to be here with everyone.
Yeah, man. Dude, it's so cool to have you here. I was reading your book, and I showed you earlier. I just put hearts and stars next to everything. Everything you're saying, it's so true. And I can't wait for people to hear this and to remind everyone the theme for this particular episode, this particular month. Yeah, it's all around that CSI, that roadmap for marketing automation. You know, what do you do first? What do you do second? Don't just go blast people some email. You gotta do it. You gotta know the process. You gotta build it out slowly and steadily. We talked to Adele Ravella in January about knowing your buyer. We worked on tracking and reporting, and now, after doing some nurturing, now we're up to let's align with sales. Let's connect to their CRM. Let's get all this stuff cranking. And so it's so great that you're here. And I would just love to pass you Thor's hammer to just smash some myths. What kind of bogus strategy around either sales and marketing alignment or sales in general are you seeing? Misconceptions that maybe marketing or sales both have? Just smash away.
All right, let's do it. The first thing, right? You joked my self-applied nickname that really stuck, the CRM guy.
The CRM guy, yeah.
Right. I get called in. Hey, let's get together. I want to talk about this thing, and then ultimately, I'm sitting around a table with executives, and there's always that guy, and they're like, "Look, our people are never going to use the CRM, right? Salespeople, especially good ones." They hate technology, right? They got enough to do. They're never going to use the CRM, right? Yep. Myth number 1. I love it when guys bring that up. I'm like, great. We got the elephant in the room is on the table and we can address it.
Yeah. Call it out, right? Don't just put it under the rug. So they lay it out there. Then you smash it right in front of them. Do you hop on the conference table and just smash that thing? What happens?
I've yet to do that, but I'm gonna bring up Amazon. I'm gonna order a hammer, right?
Yes.
Come back in and just lay it down. A foam hammer. Do you think they have those? That's what I need, like a giant oversized.
I bet you they have everything.
It makes a giant squeaky noise when you hit the table.
Yeah, like a chewy toy.
Yeah, so I do it. Maybe proverbial, not the real hammer. But I love it, right? And I agree. If you're going to bring us in and we're going to, invest all this time and money and then customize your CRM and roll it out and put your reputation on the line as executives that this matters and that we're actually going to enforce it, which by the way is one of the biggest costs, right? It's not just the cost of the CRM. It's not just the cost of the time, but it's the initiative capital, right? Guys, this is important to us. We're going to do it. You're putting yourself on the line. And so, I don't want to undervalue that. It's huge. I just want to say it. I know I see you nodding because you probably deal with this daily. Yeah,
because you can skip that, but we'll hit that next.
Yeah, totally. We'll come back to that for sure. But hey, man, adoption is key. Yeah. I don't know about you. I love Tim Ferriss and the 4-hour work week guy. He's all about 80-20 rule. He says all the time, I want the imperfect system that people actually use rather than the perfect system that nobody can figure out, right?
Yeah.
So adoption is key. You gotta learn the culture of your sales team, learn, the process that actually works in your company. And you got to roll out a CRM, in bite-sized chunks that people are actually going to use. And, if you show them, right, that this is going to add zeros to their day, which is a line I think that maybe we invented, but I often steal stuff and think we invented it.
Totally.
But if you can show someone that, look, you talk to 50 leads a week and we're going to show you how to talk to 500, right? Or you close 7 sales a week and we're going to show you how to close 70. What, real salesperson's not going to jump on board and say, I don't know what this is, but I got to get behind it and I'm willing to invest in it.
Right.
And I'm willing to, maybe step out of my comfort zone and figure it out. So, it's like all marketing and all sales, right? What's in it for them? And if you start from a place of what's in it for you guys, what's the mission behind this? Why is this important to the company? I've seen it over and over again. In fact, I'm working right now with a small call center that all the guys are crushing it. They've got an extremely in demand product. They're selling this retail product that's, you know, very in demand, and their
Cool.
distributors are taking it. And they brought me in. They said, we want to go from 3 salespeople to 30 in the next 6 months.
Sick.
We need our we need Salesforce to do that. We need all the technology. And they're like, our guys are never going to use it, right? And so between the time we started and the time we rolled it out and trained, they now have 6 salespeople. And, you know, we basically allocated about a 2-week training period between the time they could see the technology and the time they actually got to use it. And by the way, we did that on purpose. But as we started to show them this stuff, they're chomping at the bit, and they're literally, you know, emailing me. And every time I get on the call, they're like, when are we going to use this thing? And, you know, we can't wait to get it. And I'm watching it. I'm watching the exact executive who said to me, my guys are never going to use this. And we created this, you know, demand cycle around it where they feel like every day they feel like they're losing money, that they're not using the tool. And if you can do that,
dangle it out there.
We did it. And we really learned their system. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't just come in all, you know, gimmicky, right? And shiny, but we learned their system, right? We learned we found the choke points, we found the bottlenecks, what's taking all the time. And we showed them how we're going to blow every single one of those up. And now it's the new shiny toy that everybody wants. So anyone who says to me, my people are never going to use my CRM, I'm like, we need to talk, because we're going to fix that fast.
Yeah. And I love the fact that the way we do that. I mean, sometimes people are like, well, characters stick, man. And I've heard like, hey, if it's not in Salesforce, it's not in your CRM, never happened. So those calls never happened. And that deal you closed never happened either, because you didn't log it in Salesforce. So sayonara to that commission.
Just to jump on that, we call that the show, not tell environment. So that's what we want to teach, right? When you have a sales meeting, it should be, hey, let's see what you did in the CRM. It shouldn't be, tell me what's going on, right? It's be like, let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the results. It's a show, not tell environment. And if you can create that culture, that's kind of key number 2 of our 3 keys of CRM adoption. And if you do that, you know, number 1, by the way, was add zeros to the day, right? You gotta show them it'll add zeros to the day. Number 2 is you have to have a show, not tell environment. And number 3, everyone's got to speak the same language. If you create this culturally, and, you know, everyone has the same definition of a sale. By the way, I know about your military background, right? I'm not in the military, but I've studied it. And that's something they do. It's all about clarity and precision and black and white. And if you can get that in your sales culture, then you can really have a great team. And by the way, we're talking about marketing and sales alignment. That marketing team needs to understand the same language and vice versa, right? Just
totally.
Everyone using that same vocabulary is paramount to success.
Totally. You can't have, you know, the 2 different departments. I mean, that leads to half the misconceptions and half the challenges is when they're both going for their own metric, right? Marketing's focused on getting their leads. Sales is trying to close deals. And it's almost like one's talking one language, one's talking the other. And no wonder you get, I mean, it's like different countries when they get mad at each other.
Yeah.
Like, no wonder we're mad at you. You know, you didn't drink the ceremonial tea, and I tried to cheers you with my beer, and all this stuff can happen. Or, you know, marketing in their wine and sales with their shots. Either way, you know, the misconceptions, but language, that's so true that they're important. I like that. So 1 is the add zeros.
Yep.
And now with your add zeros, it's like kind of show them what's in it for them. The fact that you're going to add the zeros. Is that the idea?
Yeah, exactly. You can add zeros to your day, right? You're an amazing sales ninja, right? And I'm not gonna I'm not gonna disrupt your day to add 10% output.
Right.
I'm gonna 10x your output. And if I can't do that, if I can't show you how I'm gonna 10x your output, then I don't deserve your attention and you following my system.
Fair enough.
You know as well as I do, right? We undersell this stuff sometimes, but if you implement this sales and marketing technology, that shit happens, right? You can 10x somebody's day. You can 10x a whole team.
Oh yeah.
We often keep that stuff too close to the vest. Or we just say, trust us. We're so enamored with it. We don't take the time to show the frontline people how this is going to work for them.
Yeah. Just the whole, just trust us. We forget that we've got to sell it internally. And you've probably seen this too. You know, when a company buys or, you know, invests in a solution like this, sometimes it's the leadership that makes the decision, and no one tells the folks down the, you know, in the front lines why this was happening, why this was made, what the results are. So like, oh geez, another thing
Yeah.
that those guys that are and gals are out of touch. They're making us use another thing. And you
Yep.
almost got to resell them on,
Yeah.
or just kind of almost do like a secondary sale just to let them know like why you're in this and why you're even here,
Sure.
what
Yeah.
the results
Casey,
are.
it's the primary sale, if you ask me, right?
I love it.
It's not the secondary sale.
That's true, man.
Yeah, and we just talked about the capital that the executives put on the line, right? You don't want this to be another initiative, and if I just sweep this under the rug for a quarter, this will go away, and next quarter there'll be like a new initiative.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what people are thinking, because that's typically what happens is like
We've all
going
been
after the
there.
next thing,
We've all
the
been
next
there.
shiny thing.
Yeah.
And okay, so add the zeros. Love that. The show not tell environment. Easier said than done. How do you get there? I mean, you have everything tracked. It's in Salesforce. People can see what happened. You just start.
So I would sum this up.
Yeah.
That's a great question. So let me sum this up because I get that's a little abstract. Very often
it's cool abstract though.
These cute little sayings we have, right? Like they're a hard one, and then you come over with the saying, and then you often forget, the lesson behind it. So,
Yep.
All right, simplicity wins, right? You know that as well as I do. I know we're both affiliated with the Entrepreneurs Organization, and I often say that the one breakthrough that I've really had from being around people like you and these amazing people who have scaled, in my own words, is the simpler it is, the bigger it scales. Right? We're all these extremely smart entrepreneurs and executives and marketers, and everyone listening is guilty of this, right? We pride ourselves on thinking through everything that's going to happen and adding complexity to solve for that. But in reality, I mean, come on, the Snuggie has generated like $1 billion of revenue. I mean, that is my best comical example.
Spanx.
Spanx. Yes. I mean, you and I are not even in the market for Spanx, I don't believe. But we can explain what it is and tell anybody, who's it for and why they need it, right? So it's a great example. And so, simplicity scales. That's really what it's about, right? So we're asking our salespeople to focus on a couple key goals, right? We're not giving them this manual of 100 things to do. We're basically saying, here's your scorecard. These are your leading indicators, right? If you do these, if you hit these 4 metrics every day and every week, not only are you going to feel great and know that you're succeeding, but the sales are going to come. The organization's going to succeed, right? So the show not tell environment is whatever we ask our people to do, we shine a giant spotlight on it, right? So when they log into their CRM, if we're not going to put, here's all the leads you talked to today, here's all the amazing metrics, and here's all these, as marketers, by the way, we're all guilty of this. What's the prettiest pie chart I can show them, right? What's the coolest graphic? It's going to justify
infographic. Yeah.
Okay. We're paying $10,000 a month in a sales technology. I better show the executive some really cool charts, right? But you know what? That doesn't drive winning, right? A scoreboard drives winning, right? Yeah. So when the team's out on the court or the field, all they need is a couple key metrics, right? They need to know how much time is left, what the score is, right? They're coming back, they're talking about, a couple key metrics that they agreed upon that are leading indicators, like the number of plays per quarter or the percentage of pass to run, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's all the people need to see when they log in. So what I say is whatever you ask me to do, you're going to shine a giant spotlight on it. I want every salesperson I'm asking to do these 3 things. Every time they hit their home screen, they know exactly how far along they are. That's all they see. They see nothing else.
Yes.
Right? When they have a sales meeting, nobody has to do any reporting. It's right there, right? And if there's 2 days left to your next weekly sales meeting and you're supposed to have 10 presentations done and you've had 3, are you going to hustle, right? Versus if you have 8, you know what I mean? It is, the feedback is so actionable. And that's what I mean by putting a giant spotlight on it. And so every, weekly sales meeting and every, quarterly update, ask your people to do the right things, very few things. And all of your feedback, all of your conversation is about that. And that's the show, not tell environment. There's no room for the story, right?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise story is we didn't close it yet, but this is what's happening.
His brother uses the program. They love it, do you know Jim Rohn? Have you ever followed Jim Rohn?
Yeah, sure.
I heard this thing from him that I tell it all the time and I love it. And, he was working with his sales team and he had a little spreadsheet or a little card. I love it. Of course, on demand, right there.
On demand books. I got a little library over here.
I've seen you do that before. I don't know how many books are there.
I got your book. I got Jim. That's all I need.
Wow. I'm 2 for 2 so far. That's good.
That's it.
Yeah, but he's managing his sales team and he jokes and he goes, how many how many meetings did you have this week? Right. And the salesperson's like, well, you know what? My car was broken down. And then I get this one process, and he goes, look, I made this little box for your number. I don't have room in my box for your story. I just have room for the number. Right. And I just felt like that
I love
summed
that.
it up so well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just got enough room in the box for the hard number, and there's no room for this, for the story and the reason, you know, it's about the action.
You know, that'd be a cool T-shirt.
Yeah.
Big box that says, "I don't have room for this story."
I
And
don't remember the story. He tells it so much better than I do, but it
no,
really, that concept stuck with me so hard.
yeah, I mean, it's the whole idea of that results-only environment. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not even going to micromanage you. You know, and I guess that can be the other thing that happens in CRM is now I can micromanage a lot of your stats,
Yeah.
or a lot of your activity, or even your step. But instead, I'll take a step back. I just want to see that you're having the results that we've asked you to get.
Yeah.
And if you
100%.
are, I'll leave you alone. If you want some coaching, cool. Otherwise, you know,
Yeah.
it won't be the nanny state.
And that's really that's one of the things we teach is that business owners and sales managers and salespeople look at a sales meeting as like the worst part of their week, right? Like the worst overhead. But a high quality show not tell environment, let's get all the numbers out of the way in the
Yep.
beginning, and then let's spend the other 90% of the meeting coaching you on where you're stuck or
Yeah.
where we can help you, right?
Right.
And rather than what is a typical meeting, which is the first 90% is excuses and, you know,
Excuses.
him and
Yeah.
hawing and avoiding,
Stories.
right? And then you maybe never even get to the productive part. And if you do, it's the last 10%. And so let's get it out of the way. Let's know everybody wants to win, and let's get right into why that is or is not happening.
Man, that's awesome. So that puts a lot more color for me on the show not tell environment. And so then last one, the third one you said was same language. Talk more about that.
Yeah.
Getting people in the same language. I mean, even now, it sounds like you got to even start, you know, in where you're coming from. You even starting to make sure sales is on the same page about what we're expecting. Those stats we just talked about. Here's what that actually means. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So, you know, I'd ask you, Casey, right? Like, what's a sale mean at your company? You've got a sales team, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, if I said to you, you know, when do you feel comfortable paying a commission, right? What would you say? Did you have like a good example of that?
Yeah. You know, closed one
Okay.
is a booking. You know, it's closed one in the system, and it only is closed one because they've signed that digital document. Digital
Got it.
document signed. Now they can flip it over to close one. And I believe we actually do the commission on the payment received or something like that.
Perfect.
But the sale is that signed document.
Beautiful. I love it. So that's why I ask, because
Yeah.
I always say to people, a true sale is when you're comfortable paying a commission. And a lot of business owners just call, and sales teams celebrate a sale based on when you feel like you can celebrate it, right? But we all know we've all gotten signed contracts that don't go through, or there's some kind of problem, right? And so this is one of those things. I'm fascinated about this. So we talked about the book before. The impetus for that book was that I got lucky enough to have several clients on the Inc. 500, Inc. 5000 fastest growing list. And I was, you know, interviewing them. I'm looking for patterns. This is just what we do as entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing to win that I don't know about, right?
Yeah.
Patterns started showing up. So I'm always fascinated about a few key things where if I interview a small sales team, I get one pattern. And if I interview a big sales team, a scalable sales team, I get a different pattern, right? And there's only a few things like that I found. But I'll tell you what, if you sent me on the field and I talked to your typical 1 to 3 person sales team and the business owner, right? So if it's a one salesperson, I talk to them and the business owner. And I say, tell me what a sale looks like at your company. Like, when do you feel like the sale's made and you can put that thing to rest? I tend to get a high variable, a surprising amount of difference in the answers I get, right? So if it's 3 salespeople, 5 salespeople, you know, they just use this different language, right? Even if they actually are saying the same thing, it's amazing how casual they are about describing it, right? And how much they have to think about it. If you give me a 20-person sales team or a 200-person sales team, and I randomly call 3 people, I'm going to get this precise, like, this is when we make a sale, right? So we need the signed document agreement. We submit it through Salesforce or Zoho or whatever it is. And 30 days later, we get confirmation that accounts receivable has signed it. And then I know I'm getting it in the next month, right? Wow. So it sounds very, very bureaucratic. And a lot of small companies may actually, you know, disagree with that or dislike that. But I'm just telling you, I've seen it over and over again over the last couple of years when I've been studying this. And the more scalable the sales team, the more precise they are with how they're training their salespeople. And so, I always joke about the idea of like, if, this wall behind me in the office was blue, right? I may say to you, hey, that's a blue wall. And I know this is in the book. But if I need to patch a hole in the wall, blue is not going to cut it, right? Is it teal?
Yeah.
Is it viridian, right? Is it cyan? I need to know the actual color to be able to patch it and to be functional for that to work, right?
Right.
So most of us are running around and saying, we're talking about what's a lead, right? Who's qualified, who's not, right? Who do we send proposals to? Who do we not, right? Where is it in the sales process? If you ask your 3 salespeople, hey, tell me about lead A, B, and C, you're going to get the story rather than the precise language. So that's all about stages. We want all of our stages in our CRM to be past tense, black and white stages, right? So have they attended the webinar or have they not, right? Have you answered the qualification questions or not, right? So half of what we do is take people away from having stages like qualification, negotiation, right? These are active verbs. We want it to be like qualified,
I like
proposal
that.
sent.
Make the
verbal, yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
Make them past tense.
Imagine let's just say, Casey, you had a salespeople of 10 people, 10 qualified salespeople, and they're all there with you in New Hampshire, and you sit down around the table 1 hour a week, and you say, let's just spot check your pipeline. And you say, tell me about, Acme widgets, right? You want to know the proposal's been sent, and I have 3 days to follow up with them and know that I'm checking back. You don't want to know that the VP is in Europe and that you want to send a proposal, but you're not going, you know what I mean? You just don't have time for that, right? There's no efficiency in that. And so if you just come up with these past tense black and white stages, the whole process becomes easier. Just like, again, I love the leadership examples from the military. They're trained to have very precise definitions of every word they use. And if they find a word that's ambiguous, they attack it and they peel it back into, this is actually 6 words, 6 different phases that we're calling one thing. And we need to be precise with that. So that's kind of our third phase. And the reason why that helps with adoption is because once you have that precision in your sales process, you actually want to use your CRM because you've added zeros to your day. You know that it's a show, not tell environment. You know you're going to a meeting. And if you're juggling 100 leads in your pipeline or 20 deals, you don't want to have to remember the story behind them. You want to know exactly what the last thing that you did was, which basically comes with it and installed in that piece of information is what the next thing you need to do is to move the deal forward.
No, I love this. You're on that third part, the language. These are great. Squashing the vagueness and the vagueness of stages. I was writing down the vagueness of, is it qualified or not? Did they have a qualification conversation or not? And are they qualified? And I love the idea of the past tense stages, because I was thinking in my head, I am sending the SOW. Well, what are you waiting for? Send the friggin' SOW. But if it was SOW sent, I think it's actually in our CRM, it's SOW sent, like, okay, so now we know what's happened and what's coming up next. But rather than, I'm qualifying them. Cool. How much longer do you need for qualifying?
So I'm actually really glad you used that example, Casey. So I'm gonna beat this thing to Paul.
Beat it, man.
So if you're the salesperson and you get off the phone and you have all the information you need to send the statement of work, right? If the CRM was labeled statement of work, right, phase, you feel comfortable advancing the phase, and then you may get another phone call and forget to send that statement of work immediately, right? You may get to it tomorrow, but if you can't advance that phase until the statement of work is sent, it creates this cognitive dissonance, this friction, and it actually gets you to the meaningful milestones faster. It's a very subtle thing, but I've seen it happen over and over. I've experienced it myself, which is why I appreciate the example so much. So that's the biggest immediate benefit of the black and white past tense, is it moves you to the next concrete step faster than if it's ambiguous and you're like, well, I'm kind of in the statement of work phase, but it's not done.
Yeah. And you want to keep track. You don't want to forget about it. You you might. You're going to write it down, and you want to get to the next stage because your sales manager is going to ask you about it, or hey, this thing's been it's qualified. What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for? What's holding you back?
I need to send it. I know I need to send it. I just haven't sent it yet. It's, you're right. The stage itself sets the precedent. Stage itself holds you accountable, as opposed to sending,
Yeah.
crafting SOW,
Yes.
knitting SOW.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can be crafting something for a long time.
Wow. I like that. The vagueness, this kind of, I can see how you have this sort of process mentality, and you're attacking, just like you were saying, the military, attacking different areas of the sales process, of the use of CRM that could get vague, the vocabulary, the stage vocabulary. And then I was even thinking, discounts, when no one's really sure about pricing or discounts, that's a horrible customer experience. That
Yeah.
just throws friction that didn't even need to happen in the sales process, because we weren't even sure what we were selling. It's crazy. And
It's true.
you mentioned
Ambiguity really paralyzes you when you're juggling a lot of data, right?
true.
So that's what we always, I mean, it's
Yeah.
the example of like Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg wearing the same shirt every day. They've purposely removed that decision from their life every morning. And while I'm not doing that, I feel like we can adopt a lot of that in sales, right?
You're not doing that? You got like a great, that's a cool gray shirt. You could just
Thanks. Yeah. One of 11 in my closet. It's kind of,
Is it really?
No, it's really not.
No, dude,
No,
I do that. I do that. See this
Yeah.
Cheshire Impact
I
shirt?
love it. Yeah.
I've got like 15 of them. I have to always say that because people aren't sure, and they're like, "Did you just not?
They're wearing the same shirt.
Yeah,
Everything's going over their work. It hasn't changed
right.
in a week.
Yeah, in fact, someone at the office, a doctor's office, asked me, "Oh, see, like, no, I got 15 of them. I got 15.
Totally.
Like,
Tell them about it's the same thing Steve Jobs did and Mark Zuckerberg still does.
Right.
Decision fatigue is a real thing, right? Have you heard of decision fatigue? Yeah.
Yeah. Break it down.
So for anyone that doesn't know what decision fatigue is, it's that just like exercising or fuel in your car, you have a finite amount of ability to make good decisions, right? And so decision fatigue is when you've used let's just call it 100 for the sake of example. When you've used your 100 decisions for the day, right? You start rushing decisions. You start skipping decisions. You start deferring to tomorrow. You start making rash decisions that are not well thought out. And there's a ton of research around this. And so imagine if I added zeros to your day, Casey, and instead of talking to 50 leads, you're talking to 500.
Jeez.
I'm going to hit you in the face with decision fatigue like a brick, unless we predefined, what do you do when a customer says X? Every time a customer says X, I do Y, right? Yeah. Every time I create a proposal, I open the same template, I change the same 3 things, and I send it, right? And by the way, I'm not expecting your salespeople to be robots.
Right.
We're saving their decision capital for the things that matter, right?
Yeah.
There's something that you can never, AI has not yet figured out how to determine motivation, right? AI and robots we have not figured out how a way to automate what people really want and how to make them feel listened to and how to make them feel special. There are things that we cannot automate, we can't template. And I want to save all of my expert salespeople's time. When I say mine, not just mine, but at my clients.
Yeah.
I want to save all their mental energy for the shit that really matters, right? And just take all that. I mean, how many times do you rewrite the same email in sales, right? And I mean, obviously you're probably past this, but we've all been there, right? And I say, show me the email templates you have. And they're like, we don't have any email templates. I'm like, okay, ask yourself, every time you send a proposal, do you really write the same 3 sentences? And they're like, yeah, I totally do. And I'm like, well, why are you writing those 3 sentences?
Dang, dude,
30 times a day when that could be a template in Salesforce, right? So yeah, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but
totally.
we want to eliminate that decision fatigue. And you do that with black and white parameters.
It reminds me of people that I heard about like dating sites. They ask the same questions every time. They'll like craft that perfect answer and then they'll just paste it on like the eHarmonies or whatever.
Totally.
Hey, it's my best answer.
It's the best answer. Why not do it? Yeah.
Templated email. If they're doing it on a dating site, you can do it in sales, man. Just save yourself that time. And to your point, change up that first sentence, go Mets, go Sox, go whatever, or whatever kind of motivational twist. You're right, man. Save that motivational or that decision capital for the important stuff, the stuff we want you to do. I think I was talking to John Barrows the other day, and he was talking about some of his former students created this AI thing that can send this this crazy like email that kind of gets at all the things that scrape from your site, and that's cool. But it's like, don't over automate and don't become just a marketing machine. You're saying And you know what? People still buy from people they like, right?
Sure.
So there's that part of it too. You're there, you're their guide. I bought
Yeah.
marketing automation from a guy that explained something in really simple terms to me that I had never used before, and was just a cool ass dude, you know?
Yep.
And I was like, this guy's cool. And he explained this to me. I like this. And
Totally.
thankfully it corresponded to the right tool, but you never know.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, technology is amazing, right? Automation is
Yeah.
amazing. And it's not meant to replace people. It's meant to empower people, right? To do what only they can do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The human machine that can do those calculations that no one else can.
100%.
This kind of reminds me too. We were talking a little bit previously about a little bit of that coding background and all that. We'll get into that, but I know we came up with the idea of the black box, and I know you feel really strong about the idea of a lot of people look at sales as like this black art.
Mm-hmm.
You want to kind of bring order to that. Maybe you can just talk about that. What's your approach, and how do you take that?
Yeah. So I do think that, sales is, the most important function when it comes to business today, 100%, right? Because let's just be honest. There's only one reason any company ever goes out of business, right?
Not enough sales, right?
Not enough sales.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so obvious, but all the finance guys are always like, no, because if you're losing money, right? Listen,
Cash flow.
if I'm generating $10 million a month and I'm losing money, somebody smarter than me will come buy me. And that business will not go out of business. It will survive. I may not be the one that gets rich off of it, but trust me, nobody will let a golden egg die. Right. And the golden egg is a company that can generate revenue over and over again. So the only reason anybody shuts anything down, the only reason that Kmart and JCPenney and these companies will ultimately, perish at some point is a lack of sales, right? Otherwise, somebody would acquire them for whatever they have going on, and they would keep something going on. So yes, sales is amazing, and it takes an amazing amount of skill and experience to be a great salesperson. But they're not born salespeople and non-born salespeople. I just don't agree with that, right? There may be people that are.
Wait, there are or there aren't?
They're not. I don't believe there are. So okay. I'm a great example, right? I was more of an artist and engineer by trade.
Yeah.
I loved, building amazing things, creating, being introverted, but I loved it so much that I wanted to build a business to do that. Sure. And at some point I realized that if I didn't figure out the sales component, I would always be beholden to somebody else that could, right? And I didn't want to do that. And so, in my 20s, I consciously invested in learning how to do sales. Yeah. And now, 18 years later, I'm pretty freaking good at it, right? Books about it. I train other people to do. Exactly. Yeah. I would say that
interesting.
It is one of my strongest skill sets, but it has been developed over time out of, interest and passion. And so, that just to me, it dispels anybody that says that, you've got to have a knack for sales or an art for sales, right? Sure. Some of us may have some skill sets that will amplify it. If you're personable, if you're
good hair,
curious, if you have great hair, I mean, no, just kidding. Exactly. There are things that you can, laugh about it, but yeah. If you're a truly empathetic person that cares about other people and you're willing to learn this stuff, anybody can become a good salesperson. So that to me is enough said to dispel the myth, right? But why do I not think it's a black art? Because I come into companies over and over again. I meet their best salespeople. I interview them. I say, show me what you're doing. And at some point, sometimes in the same meeting, sometimes an hour later, sometimes a week later, I'm able to hand them a document that it describes exactly what they're doing and how they can train other people to do it, right? And it's just, so for us, we talk about sales. We all know Henry Ford, right? Yeah. What is Henry Ford truly famous for in the business community?
Model T and that factory system.
Factory system, exactly. Yeah. So the average non-business person says Henry Ford invented the car, which we know is not true, right? The business person says
he didn't invent the car, though, huh?
Well, I think they give credit to Benz, Daimler-Benz, if I remember right.
No kidding.
But there was enough automobiles in the world that you can discredit that Henry Ford invented it, right?
You're right, it was Benz.
But he invented manufacturing at scale, right? And the assembly line and the conveyor belt, and specialized labor. Yes. And what are we up? are 100+ years into the future, right? Not only like the entire world has invested in manufacturing, right? Every
Yep.
country basically is a manufacturing country.
Totally.
And we've yet to find a better system for making things at scale. So why would we think there's any difference at selling stuff at scale? It's the same system, right? If you
Right.
can design your sales process like an assembly line, and by the way, the conveyor belt in the sales process is the CRM, right? So there's multiple steps that have to go through. If a widget falls off the assembly line at any given point, whoever finds it is basically says, what was the last milestone this widget got to, and where do I put it right back on the line, right?
Yeah.
Sales is no different, which is why we, perpetuate this black and white past tense milestone. And so if you look at your sales process like an assembly line with clear cut guidelines,
Yep.
the black magic art just disintegrates immediately. And
Right.
so, by the way, just to pay this off full circle, what happens when you get a delivery at a factory, right? Always go to the loading dock. So
Yep.
if you show up at the receptionist desk and you say, by the way, I have a special order of widgets, she's going to be like, don't leave that on my desk, take it to the loading dock, right? If you have a meeting with the CEO to renegotiate terms and you say, hey, by the way, CEO, I brought this box of widgets, he's going to be like, I don't want that in my office, take it to the loading dock, right?
Right.
In manufacturing, we're so disciplined about starting things consistently and following through. But when it comes to the sales process, we treat a lead that comes in through a website one way, but we treat a referral to the CEO a different way, right? And really it's all about consistent start points, consistent process, consistent endpoint. And if we would just have the same discipline around sales that we have around manufacturing, then we would be able to scale so much faster.
Totally. Just the whole work on Six Sigma, getting your black belt,
Yeah.
understanding where a process is failing, where the weak points are, the points that are holding things up.
Yeah. And so the reason I bring that up as a little bit of a derivative there is that if marketing knows where the loading dock is, and sales says, I would love when you drop off the raw material and it looks like this, then marketing's job is just to fill that loading dock up, right? And just to never let there be a shortage of deliveries, because we all know what happens to the factory that doesn't have any raw materials delivered for a week, right?
Nothing.
Eventually the output is going to dry up.
Yeah.
So it's the same relationship. Marketing's job is to make sure the sales pipeline never dries up. Sales' job is to make sure that they create those widgets from all the raw materials.
Yeah, I love that. The factory, it's so true. And I love that you geek out on process, and I do too, because a lot of the biggest problems we see can be ascribed back to that. One company I bumped into, this is more on the marketing side, but again, process on the marketing side, they decided we're going to spend an extra $1 million this year on marketing and get a bunch more leads, and we're going to grow. And normally, you should be getting 10x or more of your investment in marketing. So if you're going to spend $100, you should be closing thousands of dollars worth of deals to justify that spend, at least once you find the sweet spot. So they spent that extra $1 million. And of course, there's pre-Chesh before us. I have to clarify that.
Let's clarify that for sure.
Revenue was flat that year, and I kind of joke that we could have just gone to Vegas and had a great time.
Yeah.
Really good time, actually, and toured the Grand Canyon, or just had a bonfire, and it would have been slightly more productive than whatever just happened just then.
Yeah.
And we looked into it, and just like you're mapping out the process in your sales factory, the marketing factory supplying that widget to your loading dock, something was happening along the way, that either that truck en route or something in the marketing factory. And even some things that were in the sales factory, the parts were dropping off the conveyor belt or getting loaded into the wrong truck and just sitting in the parking lot. And so all these leads were just kind of like, metaphor aside, they were all just being left to die, die on the vine kind of thing.
Sure.
And then once they cleared that up, we helped them, map out that process. They realized, we can actually have efficiency here. We put money in the beginning and it comes out the end. This is really cool.
It's so maddening to be the outside party and just show up and be able to point something out. So obvious sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So if I understand it right, they were marketing generated leads for that $1 million, but they just weren't being connected to sales. They were just all kind of being neglected.
Wow. In fact, they had something on the order of 30,000 leads stuck between marketing and sales. And marketing was like, we sent them. Sales was like, we never got them. We're pointing fingers at each other,
Yep,
and it's
of
like,
course.
guys, doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Um,
Neither of you succeeded here on this mission, so let's fix this.
well, my only, it's easy to say, right? But my easy summation of that is, you got to have dashboards with the right numbers that shine a giant spotlight on this stuff. And somebody would have been like, okay, we got a number that's going out of control over here, and this number is not connected to that, right?
Right.
Yeah, that bottleneck would have been identified so fast.
Well, I think back to our earlier convo about, marketing had their metric,
Yeah,
leads generated.
that's all they cared about.
Yeah. And they generated them.
Yeah. Imagine if they would have changed that to leads accepted by sales.
Yeah.
A little tweak.
Or revenue.
Well, true, but revenue sometimes
right.
can be
One
very
step
lagging.
beyond.
Yeah, exactly. Then they could be like, well, we sent them to sales, but they didn't close,
Right.
But yeah, if they're accepting the lead, I mean, we talk about that a lot. Like the sales team they should have some mechanism to accept the lead, right? That's the feedback. That's actually the success fail rate for marketing, right? You gave me 50 leads this week. 32 of them were the kind of leads that we agreed upon we want.
Yes.
Right. Next week, it was 12. Did we change something, right? Or is it just one of those weeks,
Yeah, is it a weird lead source or what's the deal? But look at it and analyze it. I like that too, because we keep telling folks on the marketing side, look, sales is one of your end customers. Sometimes you have two, and sales is one of them. The lead you brought in is one, and so is the sales team, because they're receiving something you created.
Yeah.
And so don't invent your own criteria. Talk to sales about it. And actually, it's a good kind of tie-in. I know in your book you have a whole section on qualification criteria, which is so key.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like we even need to teach sales how to qualify, but then definitely let marketing know what it is. So what's your take on qualification? How do you approach it?
Well, I think that qualification is the least used tool in the sales team, right? Really? Because what salesperson have you ever met that wants to like not sell a lead that comes into their right? I mean, you know what I mean? Come on, we're all guilty. You say, if you call me tomorrow and say, I've got a friend that might use your system, I mean, I am like doing everything I can to make it work, but we got to be sober about this, right? We need to be lighthouses, like we know who we're built for. And so it's got you. So what happens is over the course of a sale is there's a tipping point, right? So if I send you a lead tomorrow and you start selling that person, there's imagine a line chart. You're investing more and more in this sale over time, right? And so at some point, you as the selling company have more invested than the prospect. That's a dangerous point.
Wow.
Yeah. That's the dangerous point where you will make concessions. That's when if it's a big deal and that salesperson has a thin pipeline, they're all in on that deal. They'll do anything to make it work, right? And they're neglecting other new leads because they're like, okay, I got to close this thing. This is a big deal and I've taken it this far. And so having an awareness that at some point you'll have more invested than the client in the deal is extremely important. And so before that point, earlier the better, but not too early to sabotage the deal. You need to have the hard qualification point. So for, you've heard of like BANT before, like budget, authority, need, timing. Totally. I don't love BANT because it leads out something very important. And that's kind of their desire to do business with you, which I think is a big part of this whole thing. So we came up with something called chase the fat deals, right? And so in nature, squirrels know that if winter's coming, they want to squirrel away the fattiest food possible because the least amount of food will actually give them the most benefit, right? So I want you to do the same thing in sales, right? I want you to have the fattest pipeline possible. And that doesn't mean the most voluminous. It means the deals that are most likely to close, right? So FAT is an acronym: fit, ability, and timing, right? Are they a fit for your company? Are you clear? So I like to use the example. So here, Juicy Results, everything we've done is built for a customer who has a phone-based sales team. They have between 1 and 10 million in revenue. They've reached some level of success, but they haven't fully scaled. Yeah. And they have a stated goal of doubling revenue in the next 1 to 3 years. Nice. So there's a mindset piece there, right? They're not a third generation dry cleaner who's trying to squeeze 1% more of revenue out a year. They're a bold startup or a business that has, basically said, we are ready to do something different. We're ready to grow. Right. So I know they're a fit. I know they have a phone-based sales team. They're not a massage therapy place that's not going to invest in Salesforce or Zoho or, you know,
Tell you
anything
what,
like
the
that.
trading on those deals would be kind of fun.
It's very true. A lot of barter deals there, right?
Yeah, barter deals.
So the ability for us is, you know, they're the business owner or,
Yep,
you know, VP of sales of a company 1 to 10 million,
yep.
right? And then they have the timing, right? They have a stated goal of trying to double revenue. So once I know, so literally we use Zoho, by the way.
Cool.
We're platform agnostic. We love
Yep.
all the tools. But when you bring up a new lead, to be able to convert it from lead to deal in my system, you have 3 check boxes. My salespeople have to check off their fit, their ability, and their timing.
Huh.
They're not able to push the deal forward without that.
Is it
If
just a checkbox, or do they have to
That's
put
it.
in what it actually the
No,
thing is?
that's it. I just want them to mentally check it off.
Yep.
And if they ever come to me and they ever say, I think this is a great deal, they're asking for a concession, the first thing I'm going to ask them is, are they a fat deal? Because if they're not a fat deal and they're asking for a concession, we're not even going to entertain it. It is off the table. We know who
Right.
we're built for and who we're not, right? So we're avoiding crossing the threshold where we have more involved than they do until we
Yes.
know that they're the right deal. So
That's
we say
cool.
all the time, qualify ruthlessly, right? You know, obviously
I like that.
don't shoot people down. It's funny because everyone I speak with other people at conferences and I talk and everyone's like, oh my gosh, like you don't want your marketing's generated these leads. You don't want your salespeople just turning people away. And I'm like, I agree with you, but my infield experience is that the salespeople are doing the opposite. The pendulum is so far to the other side. They are chasing every deal. Anybody with a pulse, you know,
Yeah.
you may have a different problem if your sales team just says all these leads are crap all the time. But even then, understanding what your fat criteria is will help your marketing team refocus, right? So we just think qualify ruthlessly, be honest with yourself. If they're not, if they're a fit and they have good ability, but the timing's not right,
Yeah.
that's when they're right for marketing automation. Don't lose them, but
Right.
don't invest your salespeople's time in somebody who does not have a timing need, right? If
Right.
they have the fit and they have the timing, but you're not speaking to the decision maker, you know, again, nurture those people and find a way to reach the decision maker, you know?
Right.
So knowing that, you know, fit, ability, timing really shows you what the next step is. And by the way, if they're not a fit, they're not a fit. Who can you introduce them to and get them out of your pipeline as fast as
Yeah.
possible? That's just bad mojo from the beginning, right? So we want to qualify right away. And I got to tell you, from personally managing salespeople, there's no bigger waste of time than looking around the table, whether actual or metaphorically, because we
Yeah.
have a remote, you know, we have a location independent team now. It's all
Sure.
over Zoom.
Yeah, me too.
But looking around the Zoom and dealing with salespeople who have a pipeline full of people that are going nowhere, right? There's nothing good about that at all. And typically, the first thing you should inspect if you have a pipeline of people going nowhere is are they fat deals? Or are you chasing
Mm.
people that are not a good fit?
Is it fat? Great. If
Yeah.
not, bounce. You know,
Yeah.
it's so true, that qualification. I thought back to one time on the marketing side, we were trying to help this organization figure out, let's do some grading and scoring of leads so we can identify the traits that sales has asked us for. And they hadn't asked yet. And so we were trying to work together with both teams there. Hey, what do you want? And you're right. Some by default, some organizations are just like, I'll take anything, and there's one particular example. It was like endpoints is what they wanted. How many computers they have at that company,
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's something definitive. We can ask them on the marketing process. So, what's a great number? Okay, now what's a bad number? At how many computers, how many endpoints, and it's not a good deal.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, right around 20, things get hairy. So I'm like, so if it's 19, it's no good. They're like, no, I'd still call them. I'm like, oh, okay. And
Yeah.
then, well, what about one? What about one? Is one bad? Well, no, maybe they. Okay, what about zero? Zero endpoints? Is that
Yeah.
bad? And then everyone's like, I think so. Then all of a sudden, one guy's like, well, VC firms typically don't have any endpoints themselves. They have endpoints for their clients. So I'd still call that zero endpoint. So I was like, okay, clearly this question's going nowhere.
Yeah.
But to your point, the qualification and getting to it's almost like that, getting to a no, or just finding out, hey, this is not a fit,
Yeah.
but doing that sooner than later. I was wondering, when you described that curve, well, what do you think, what does that curve look like, where the customer isn't really spending much time, we're not really spending much time, but at some point I guess the company starts spending a lot more time. Maybe it kind of it curves together, but at some point there
Possibly, yeah. It's
has
funny
to
because I just kind of have like when I show this in a presentation,
yeah.
I just have a 90-degree or no 45-degree angle, right?
Okay.
And I just the chart that I'm developing is your personal time in the deal, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm showing you your personal time in the deal,
Cool.
right? And then I have a little dotted line, and that's the point where you cross where you've got more in it than the customer does, right?
Right.
That's it. That's so I'm putting it in your own personal, context when I show this to salespeople, and it's great. I'm telling you, what I would bring that up when I talked to, like, so if I had that conversation, you're like, okay, what about 0 endpoints? One guy is like, I would still call a 0 endpoint and be like, okay, guys, so let's add
Yeah.
one
What would you
variable.
say?
I would say, let's add one variable. So I bring up that chart, right? And
Yeah.
I would say, now, okay, how many leads do you get a day? Right. So the
Yeah.
VC guy is like, okay, we get about 10 leads a week.
Yeah.
What happens when marketing starts sending you 900 leads per week? Are you still going to call a zero guy? Right? No, you're not. So we need to
Ah,
design this around when you're saturated, right?
yeah.
We as the marketing team are offering you more leads than you can handle. How do we, but we, it won't be more leads than you can handle if we apply filters, and we will no longer be sending you the 0 to 18 endpoints. It will
Right.
save those people. They'll be tier 2 people. We'll use them to train new salespeople on,
Yeah.
or if the economy changes and things go crazy, we'll call those people back. You know what I mean? But we're not going to insert them into your weekly pipeline when you're buried, you know? So I feel like we owe it to them to show them what's about to be possible so they can start to
Right.
ask for what they really want, right?
That's really cool. It's like get them used to or get them thinking about what happens when there's a lot when things are going faster or there's more
Yeah.
so it reminds me of some swim coaching. They have you put these like crazy gloves on, or even flippers.
Uh-huh.
So when you're training, you get used to swimming fast.
That's
Um,
interesting.
so you
Yeah.
get used to what it's like, how I'm efficient, how do I best, because when you're going slow, it doesn't really matter what your body looks like too much. But
Oh,
as you start
interesting.
getting
For like
faster,
aerodynamics or
get more
water dynamics.
streamlined. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like get used to swimming fast so you act like it. And I remember swimming fast one time being like, wow, I'm like a speed demon out here.
Yeah.
And then it kind of all those lessons, but in the same case, all right, you don't you don't have 18 leads, you have
Yeah.
1800, you have 900 like you're saying. All right, now who do you really want to call?
Sure.
And going back from there.
Totally.
That's a
It's,
great
yeah,
point.
you know this as well as I do. It's hard for some people to step out of the day to day. Like their whole reality is, I
100%.
get 7 leads a week. I will call anybody. They
Yeah.
can't put themselves in the future mindset that they would get 70 leads a week. They just can't even get their heads wrapped around it. And so sometimes our job as outsiders is to just be like, agree with them and then show them what 70 leads look like and
Right.
only send them the ones that are above 18. And sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you got to push the eagle out of the nest, as they say, right? And just see how it works out.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Huh. You know, getting to that qualification sooner than later was actually, it kind of reminded me of a lesson I learned. I used to sell tuxedos on the
Really?
side. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I was like a marketer full time, doing my
Wait,
thing,
like renting them or actual selling them? Like I'm owning the tuxedo full time.
kind of in between. So
Okay. All
there's
right.
this tux place, and I was going to be their marketing manager, but didn't really have a chance to do that. I was working somewhere else. And so they're like,
Yeah.
hey, come to us to these trade shows. And so I went to these like bridal shows and all these things. And I liked it because I'd show up, they'd have a tux for me in my size, something
Nice.
fancy, some like $500 tux, and like
Yeah.
wearing these things. And, brides and people getting married and couples would come by and be like, hey, we're getting married. I'm like, do you have a tux yet? And it was like down and dirty, but I use it as like, hey, I'm marketing, but I'm going to use this as like sales training.
Yeah.
Right in front of you. Are they going to say yes? Are they going to say no? And we didn't have to get them to buy anything. All they had to do is fill out a form.
Uh-huh.
But the owner of that company was really smart. He said, don't just have them fill out a form because we'll get their name, but we already get the list of all the people that go there anyways. All the other vendors do
Good
too.
point.
And
Yeah.
all the other vendors, they'd have you just fill out a form. No big deal. He required a totally refundable $10 deposit, cash, check, charge, whatever. And you would get all these discounts. They would not expire. Come into the store, see what you get. If you like it, great. If not, here's your $10 back. And sometimes it was like pulling arms off of people. It was twisting arms, is all that craziness. So it was kind of a fun challenge though. And eventually
Yeah.
it became like cash bonuses and all that. But it was fun to try to see, could I get these people, fill out the thing on the clipboard, answer their questions. And I used to spend a lot of time really trying to get someone. And I remember driving up to an event in like Bangor, Maine, like way north. And I was with the CEO of this tux store. And this was,
Yeah.
many years ago, and I was still learning the chops. And I remember him coaching me and saying, look, you spend a lot of time on these people that they've already told you no. They've already said they're not interested, but then
Yeah.
you try to and try and you try and you try, but guess what? They still said no afterward. Like, what if you didn't spend your time on them? And while you're talking to those people, someone else might be walking by that is more interesting. It's like, oh, you know what? Being more aware of how I spend my time
Yeah.
is so key.
Dude, there's this hero culture around salespeople who turn no's into yeses, and this idea of celebrating the 70th follow-up that that distorts the true lesson there, right?
Right.
Yeah, I get it. We all know that there's this thing called the buyer's pyramid, and a very small percentage of your buyers are in the market today, right? That are ready just to like, hey, I was hoping I came here. So some percentage of those people were coming to get a tux. That was the groom's number one goal was, I'm going to pick out a tux today.
Totally.
Right. If you were the first guy or the first three and you had a compelling offer, boom, done. Right.
Done.
But if you only crafted your message for them, you'd miss out on everybody else. Right.
Right.
So and that's the real lesson. So we're like, okay, we need a little bit more compelling lesson. We need a little more, we need to not take the first no. But then there's this like slippery slope where it's like, anybody that makes eye contact with me, I will sell.
Right.
Right. And they could be like, dude, I am like third generation tux manufacturing family. Like we make our own tux. And the wrong person would be like, no, I am going to sell you a tux today. Right. And they would like take pride on that. That is the worst use of your time,
Yeah.
So,
I had a same-sex couple come by and be like, oh, we don't need tuxes. We're both gonna be wedding dresses. I'm like, but what about tuxes?
Yeah. What about your best
not
man?
Gonna happen,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's an awesome lesson. So I love this stuff because one, to take it full circle, almost everybody at that was qualified for you, with the exception of the same-sex couple.
Right.
But you learned that right away.
Yeah.
But these guys were qualified, so that's good. And whenever you can put yourself in an environment where it's a high penetration of quality people, like qualified people, you can skip that step, right?
Yeah.
Which you probably were. I'm curious, what did you say? Like, what was your line to get them to like understand if they were still looking for a tux?
Well, it wasn't that. It was more consultative, even though it was like, hey, when's the big day? And then they'd say, oh, June 24th. And I'd say indoor, outdoor, skydiving.
Yeah, great.
And they're like, what? Indoor or outdoor? And I'd say, do you have the penguin suit yet? And I'd point to myself, and then we kind of take it from there.
That's perfect. Yeah. So then you had a great qualification, like icebreaker. So I'm actually glad we went through that exercise. I have nothing to correct on that. That's perfect. But for your listeners, you know what I mean? Like look how fast you got to the qualification. Like, so I think a lot of times when I talk about qualifying customers, some people hear me and they're like, ew, you're going to be that guy that's like, can you buy from me? Or are you a decision maker? By the way, asking somebody if they're a decision maker is the biggest load of BS in the world, because they either are and they're not going to tell you, or they're not and they're going to tell you they are.
That's a good point.
So yeah, you need a way to get a roundabout way to find out if they're, you know what I mean? Like, so you can ask someone if they have a tux or not, because there's no identity wrapped up in that. Like nobody has this picture of themselves in their mind as being more important because they have a tux when they don't, or vice versa. But you ask someone if they're a decision maker, right? You get into a whole slew of psychological like pecking order, which we can't go into today, but we just know, like, or their boss said, go get me answers. And they're thinking, well, if I tell him that decision maker, he's not going to give me the answers. Right. So I laugh all the time. Like you can't just hit somebody in the face with a 2x4 and be like, are you qualified or not qualified? Right. The magic is in the story and in the engagement and, indoor, outdoor, right? You were soliciting them, you were getting them, you were breaking the ice, you were getting them used to answering questions. Now contrast that to them walking by and you being like, got your tux yet? Got your tux yet? They would just be like, dude, moving on. You know what I mean? So I love that you gave that example, because, for any of the people out there crafting their qualification message, Casey's example was great. You engaged them in a way that mattered. You were consulting with them. How can I help you? It wasn't just, I'm in it for me, right?
Right.
What most qualification
Right.
is. So,
Right.
so just to pay my example forward, because I like using it, I've perfected over
Yeah.
time. You get referred to me, you call, hey, we help companies scale their sales team. We
Yep.
do it, with systems. By the way, all the things we talked about today involve zero technology, right? They're all psychological systems and soft systems. We do that through soft systems as well as technology. We have a very perfected system here that works extremely well for a very specific kind of customer. So our most successful customers are phone-based sales teams between 1 and 10 million in revenue, who have a stated goal of doubling revenue next 1 to 3 years. If that's you, everything we've done has been designed to help you succeed. And if it's not, then I can probably still add a lot of value to you today, but we may not be the right choice for you, right? So I'm putting the onus on them to self-qualify and either defend that this is the right phone call, or to be very honest with me and be like, that's not exactly us. We're much bigger than that, but we still have those problems, or we're not quite that size yet. But that's it. I'm not saying I'm not going to talk to you. I'm just simply saying I'm a lighthouse.
Yeah.
I bring people into this harbor,
I like
right?
that term.
Is
Yeah.
this the harbor you're looking for or not?
Yeah.
And it disarms so much of the sales call immediately. And that's why we spend so long on understanding the FAT criteria and crafting the right language around it.
I loved hearing you break down mine and then share yours, because a lot of the stuff I've just done has just been by feel. And then I love hearing afterward, like, hey, that was good. You did this. And one time I mirrored somebody, I had no idea. And he was a jerk and I was a jerk back to him, but then he loved me and I didn't know why. So I love hearing you sort of break down what this all means. But what's interesting is I'm drawing this distinction that qualification can actually make people feel good.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be that skeezy, self-serving thing. It can be, hey, here's my sweet spot, or more like, where are you at? But again, here's where we can play. It's cool if we're not there. We can still hang out, but this is where we go. To your point, lighthouses are good things.
Yes.
I mean, they're like,
so if you're looking for that harbor, there is no more welcome sight than that lighthouse.
Totally.
Right? And if you're not, you probably don't even, it's still helpful. It helps you from crashing into the rocks and you kind of move along and then you forget about that lighthouse, but it was still helpful.
It was still helpful.
It wasn't for you.
Yeah. No one's like that jerk, that lighthouse jerk.
Totally. Shine the bright lights in my eyes when I was going by. Yeah. Nobody says that.
Oh, that's killer. Well, man, this is so cool. Like, who are you? Take me back. How did you you mentioned you dropped some tidbits, which is kind of cool, like Hansel, Gretel, some little tidbits. You were an artist. Like, take me back to, baby you or whatever, how did you acquire in this journey when you went from, where you were to now running Juicy Results and helping people really grow?
So the key milestones are, yes, I was in design school. I went to an amazing magnet school in high school, actually, even before college. It was just for design. And I was convinced that I was going to be, some kind of artist and painter. And I used to paint and I loved it. And I did what a lot of high school students do. And you're like, well, what kind of jobs are there for artists? And people gave me some advice that, hey, there's a term starving artist for a reason, right? Right or wrong.
Did you listen to them?
Well, what I basically took out of that, because I like looking back, I'm never going to talk someone out of doing what they do, right?
Right.
Fortune favors the bold, right? But I also looked at what a day in the life of being an artist looked like, and I don't know if it was for me. You know what I mean? Like it's a little isolating, right? You're kind of doing your own thing. And by the way, I still think today, like I wake up in the morning, my favorite time of the day is when I work on thought leadership. I'm writing about these concepts, all these terms that I've used. We've crafted these, this is the craft today. So I think I've taken a lot of that passion and just channeled it into something that is, very useful and practical.
Right.
But yeah, I was like, hey, you know what? I would love to be an ad guy, right? This was back in the 90s. And I'm like, I could work at an ad agency and I'd still be around design. And I've always kind of liked business and branding. Like, it wasn't really a bad word back in the 90s. It was actually kind of exciting to be around this stuff, and, there were a lot of companies doing amazing things like Virgin. And like, I feel like that was a great point where like, business all of a sudden was recognized as actually being a positive force in society and not just, big corporate America.
Yeah, there's some cool ones that started to really shine.
Yeah, exactly. So we're of similar ages, so I know that
Mhm.
you can relate to that. And I was like, yeah, I think I'd really like to go into advertising, right? So I'll go to design school instead of just painting, and
Yeah.
so I did that, and I got this amazing internship at a newspaper to develop film, and I hustled my way at 17, 18, and I said, hey, all those guys that work in your design department graduated from the college that I'm about to go to. Can I work? Like, I'll stay an extra hour every day if you let me work with those guys. And they let me do it. And it
What were
was
you at
pretty
the
cool.
newspaper for? Like it
I
was
was
something
just
else.
developing film. Like, I was an assistant, like
This is
working
like
over the
old
summer.
OG film, like
Yeah.
like the film in like the red room and everything, and
Yeah.
you're washing
1
it with the
year after I
chemicals.
got there, they went digital. So I was like the last,
Oh wow.
yeah. And by the way, sidebar, that design school I went to, we were using this little program 1 hour a day called Photoshop 3. Like, I didn't think was going to go anywhere. And then the newspaper,
Jeez.
everything's Photoshop. And they're like, yeah, we've brought this consultant in to teach us how to go digital. And we're going to use this program called Photoshop. And I'm like, I know how to use that. Right. And I'm like teaching
Yeah,
everyone, I'm like teaching the consultant they brought in, like how to do stuff
of
and everything
course.
like that. But, it's a testament to the, having the right education, the right time. So anyway, I was just always that way. I never settled for what was put in front of me, right? It's like,
Yeah,
hey, I want to do that. I know you're not going to pay me to do that, but I'll do it, and then they
that's
started paying.
awesome.
Like, well, you can't be here and us not pay you because we're a big corporate. It was like a net newspaper. So they
Right.
started paying me like my,
Yeah.
minimum wage or whatever to
Sure.
like, and my graphics are going in the newspaper. And I was like,
What
okay,
was that like when you first saw? Yeah, because the
pretty
newspaper is
cool.
still like a thing. Like when it gets physical.
It was a big deal back in the 90s. Like,
Yeah.
my
Do you
parents
remember
like
what
had
it
all
was?
they're showing everybody like the clippings, like they would give you a byline and everything like that. And so it was pretty cool,
Do you remember what
and
your first one was? Was it like a little weather graphic or something?
probably it was
Yeah.
pretty formulaic, right? We were doing
Yeah. Yeah.
stats and pie charts,
I did
and
that.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was pretty exciting, but what it showed me was that, you don't need a formal education. Like
Right.
the takeaway was, if you're humble and hungry and you listen, maybe you don't have to go the traditional route that everybody does,
I
right?
like that. Yeah.
And yeah, totally. And so I did this monster.com search because I didn't have internet at
I
home.
remember Monster. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and I used the newspaper computer kind of at the end of my shift, and I said, I think I was done with everything at like 15 minutes. I had to wait around, and I was like, what kind of jobs are out there for graphic design jobs like I'm doing today? What do they pay? Right, I'm getting paid like minimum
Yeah.
wage to do this, and
Right.
I did this search for graphic design, and 99% of the jobs were web design, and I was like, I don't know anything about web design,
Interesting.
right? And I was
Yeah.
like, I need to learn this stuff. And thank goodness this was the days when websites were just HTML and some
Yep.
graphics. I
Yep.
mean, I think all the time about the kids that would graduate and come work for me when I had my agency, and you had to know JavaScript and CSS and HTML and
CSS. Yeah.
all
All
these,
that stuff.
and the jQuery library, right? It was
Yeah.
just ridiculous. You had to know how to check your source code in it. Like, I'm like, how do these kids like ever build a website? So back then it was so easy.
Yeah.
I joked, I rolled myself a Barnes Noble University. I didn't even have the internet at home, so I would go out like on the weeknights, the weekend nights, and I would just go to Barnes Noble, buy a
No kidding.
Frappuccino, get all the web design books, read them, take notes. And I had a little Mac at home, and I'd come home, I'd start building websites. And then I started approaching businesses and being like, I can build a website for you. And they were like, well, why do I need a website? And I had to like
Oh
answer that
wow. That those days where people didn't even have the
yeah.
websites. Yeah.
Yes. I laugh all the time about that. There was this transformational shift of when I was a freelancer convincing people why they needed a website to when I ran a full blown website design agency.
Yeah.
And then people would call me and say, I need a website. And I would say, why? Then I started asking them, why do you need a website? And they're like, I
That's
don't
them.
know. Doesn't everyone have one? And I'm like, that's the wrong answer. Right. So there was this like transformational shift where they were asking me why they needed one to where they were calling
Yeah.
me saying, well, why do you need one? Right.
Wow.
But it was cool, and I literally could learn everything. And so um, the newspaper started talking about starting a website, and I said, hey, I know how to do that. I know the newspaper. So literally they gave me the job on my 19th birthday. They kind of gave me the web design department, right? And so kind of
Wow.
the lead, builder of the website. And I remember, again, going back to conventional wisdom, I'd always grown up, you have to go to college to be somebody, right? And
Yep.
I had this
Yep.
like opportunity to go away to school and all this other stuff. I remember saying to my parents, I have this amazing opportunity. They're going to give me a full-time job. Like, nobody's doing this stuff. But if I do it, I'm going to have to go to school part-time, and I'm not going to be able to go away to school for a while. Like, it's going to change everything.
Yeah.
And I thought my parents were going to be like crushed, because they always said you're going to, and they were like, this is a no-brainer. Like, you got to do it. And that was like lesson number 2, that you don't have to do things the conventional way. Like, when opportunity is there, you got to take advantage of it. So I did that for a year, helped them build their website department. It was a Gannett newspaper, and there was like 90 newspapers at the time, including USA Today. And the MO in the early days was every individual newspaper has entire autonomy. We're not giving you the programs. Like, you do whatever works, and if it works, you come tell us, and then we'll roll it out. And so turns out the number one problem all these newspapers had was getting the news desk, who was getting out a nightly newspaper, to take the website seriously. They thought the website was like a little side
joke
that only nerds would use. And so nobody would, so most newspapers news was getting updated at like noon the next day.
Right.
Like, it was a day behind. Right.
Wow.
And so I worked in the newsroom. I knew all those guys. They loved that this like 18-year-old kid had gone from working downstairs every day in shorts and a t-shirt to being a suit upstairs, you know? And like, that was this newspaper. The upstairs was like the business departments, and the downstairs was the newsroom, right?
The basement with a photo lab. Yeah.
So I took my Barnes & Noble books, and in Perl, I wrote this little CMS that was web-based, and I sat with the news guys, and I said, how do you flow in the content? He's like, oh, you take it from here and you put it in here. And it's like, what do you have open? So I designed the interface to match what they were doing.
No kidding.
And I said, so when you copy it here, just copy it here, right? And just hit save. And like, I made it super simple. And so, you know, our system ended up like becoming adopted, and like, we were the only newspaper that was doing real-time nightly news across like all the departments. And it was just because I had the buy-in, you know, like they wanted me to succeed, right?
Which kind of like what you're doing with CRM, you made it super easy for them.
Still using that
rocket science, able to jump on, you know, 1 foot. Like, he just hit paste over here too, and paste it there, and then hit save.
Totally.
I was just gonna say, I was like, what's CMS? I mean, WordPress, it wasn't around, right? It was like,
no way,
hard coded, or you
we were like 10 years ahead of WordPress. Yeah. So it was just a little Perl thing that I built, and it was like, publish a news story, publish a business story, publish a sports story. It was like 3 buttons, right? And they just copied and pasted, and that was it. There was no images being uploaded, none of that yet, you know?
Right.
That was a breakthrough. And so word got out, and I just had my opportunity to go anywhere. And so Amazon flew me out a couple times, offered me a job, and that's what brought me to Boca. And I thought I'd be here for a year at a little startup, and I had all these stock options, and it was going to be amazing.
Say that Amazon stock would look pretty good right about now.
It would, but you know, everyone's like, don't you regret it? And I'm like, you know, this was 2000, and about 3 months after I declined the job, they laid off 2,000 people. So the fact, you know, the chances of me surviving were not, you know, guaranteed for sure.
Right.
And I was moving from sunny South Florida to Seattle, and I took that flight twice, and it was an eternity, right? And I'm
it's
like,
pretty long.
I'm 20 years old, right? I can't even legally drink yet. And I'm like going across the country, like away from my parents, away from everything. Like, it was pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I opted for this little startup, which, you know, the executive team was amazing. And I was like, I was going to watch them raise money. And that was an amazing opportunity, right? And again, they had no salespeople. No, all marketing. It was .com days. If you spend enough money, people. And I remember I was always frustrated when I heard that we were doing poorly and that we needed more investment. And I'm like, why aren't we out selling? Like, even back then, like, I was like so frustrated, and like, it made such a material impact on me about how important sales was. So 7 months almost to the day that I got hired, you know, they had to shut down, and it was post 9/11.
Was that the .com bubble?
Post .com bubble, the summer before 9/11. And I went on all these job interviews, and nobody was hiring. And that whole executive team that by the way, they, you know, former CMO of AOL was like our chief marketing officer, like really big gun. So they had no problem getting jobs. And by the way, they couldn't hire. They had hiring freezes. So they called me, and they're like, Jeremy, we can't hire you, but we can outsource to you. And enough people started doing that. And I started to realize that I was going to, you know, college part-time, and I was paying, you know, $300 a credit hour to learn COBOL, which was a dead language.
Totally.
People were paying me $100 an hour to write web pages for them, right? And I was just like, this is stupid.
Yeah, no brainer.
So I like put school on hold, and I started my company, and it was a web design company. And that's when I truly realized that the only thing holding me back was salesmanship and the ability to sell. And
Nice.
I became the best salesperson that I could become. And I invested heavily in that. And that was amazing. And then we became an agency. Like I
Yeah.
merged with a design company. And so we grew into an agency. And then something really hit me. And that it was that, every time I went on vacation, we stopped selling, right? Every time I was on
Interesting.
a round, there was no one else selling. And I
Yeah.
heard this Jack Welch quote that I loved. And I'd really prided myself, like very often, and you know this, the strength of the leader is the weakness of the company. And I tell my clients that all the time,
The
no matter.
strength of the leader is the weakness of the company.
Yes. So if you're an amazing operations manager, you typically haven't outsourced that and built up great operations staff. If you're an amazing rainmaker, you typically haven't built out a sales department. If you're an amazing, financial genius, you typically haven't delegated and have other people managing
Oh,
finances,
wow.
and you are the bottleneck, right? So that was me, and I heard a Jack Welch quote that said, no matter how big of a company, even at GE, I've always been the best salesperson at the company, but I can't sell as much as 10 people can sell. And so you got to invest in great salespeople.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that and I was like, man, it is my ego of being the rainmaker that is holding me back from growing, right? And I'm not focusing on the parts of the company that need me as a CEO because I'm determined to be at every single deal and sell every single, opportunity. And
Yeah.
that's holding us back. And so I hired salespeople and none of them worked out. And I immediately was right back to square one. And I'm like, wow, managing salespeople and building a sales team is a different skill set than selling. And I need
Oh,
to,
yeah.
this is the next thing for me. Right.
Yeah.
And so I did that within Juicy. And then, I think I was telling you before, I went to this amazing workshop, this conference, and they said, on one side of the paper, write down everything you love about your company, the things that your customers will always pay you for, that you have great margins on, that you beat the competition every time you come up against them.
Yep.
And then, on the right side of the paper, write down everything you hate that you should get rid of. In the middle, kind of put everything that's neutral,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And the idea was, the more of the left side you can do, the better business you have. And by the way, what if you only did the one thing on your left side? Like, what if that's all your company was,
Yeah.
were the things that you were differentiated on, that only you could do, that you have great margins on, that, that you win every single time on, that you love to do. And I was like, wow, that's the CRM part of our business that I give away as part
Yeah.
of my marketing agency. And so about 2 years ago, we started a transition that took me way too long to commit to.
Yep.
Like all things, it was the obvious choice, but there was a lot of, bold moves associated with that. And so I
Yeah,
dragged my
totally.
feet, but I ultimately kind of sold off all the agency business and got rid of everybody on that side and just said, we are going to, take all the drama out of building a sales team, and we're
Yeah.
going to help companies scale their sales the way that I always wanted to. And that I had the hardest time doing.
That's sick.
So there we are. That's my story.
Boom. I love that chart too. I think we could do that in a lot of different, do it in our
Yeah.
companies, do it in our jobs, do it in
Everything. You're
our
right. It's,
relationships and
yes, it's recursive. You can do it once and then you can do it again. Like once you make the cut, I can now look again and say, okay, of all the things I do, what is still the stuff that I like to do the best?
right.
And you continue to hone down into the essence of what works for you.
I love you dropping that recursive smart bomb, little CSS shout out, coders unite.
Yeah, that's right.
That's awesome, man. Well, man, this has been awesome, to learn about, from you on that sales journey. And
Yeah.
man, you definitely hustled from that basement of the newspaper.
Yes.
I see you with the
Developing
ink and
film in
all
the
that.
dark room.
Yeah.
I'm literally in the dark room
Dark room.
developing film with gloves on and an apron, right?
Yeah, right. Then running GC results and really refining down from being just a more of a general marketing agency to,
Yeah.
man, we help you grow your sales teams, scalable sales teams. Give it some shout outs. So, I'll even start you out. Seven habits of scalable sales teams. Got this puppy on Amazon. It's all out there. We'll link to it in the show notes. What other
Yeah,
links? How can
it's
people
available for free on our website,
or
juicyresults.com.
it's available for free.
Yeah, you can download it digitally, which I'm totally fine with. It's
Cool.
So we got the digital copy, or it's on Amazon for like $7 or something like that.
Yeah, it was Prime.
Yeah,
it's easy.
It's a tiny read. The thing I'm most proud of is that people tell me all the time, I never read books, and I read your book because it was so simple, it was so easy, but it's fundamental. I hope you agree with that. I saw your little
Yeah, I do.
manual hearts on
Every
there.
chapter. Love it. No complaints.
Good. Appreciate that. So I'm 7 for 7. That's good. It's a quick read, 7 Habits. So yeah, 7 Habits of Scalable Sales Teams. Great place to start.
Yeah.
You go to Juicy Results. You'll find our podcast, New Customer Machine. It's all about turning strangers into customers at scale, which is what we say our framework does. Cool. And if your team's having a hard time adopting the CRM or feel like you're missing the sales technology boat, we'd love to help you. And it's all on Juicy Results. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything is pretty much just Jeremy Pound. I've been lucky enough to have a unique enough name that I can grab. And
scoop it up fast, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you Google me, you'll find me out there. It's pretty easy.
Cool. LinkedIn, Twitter, we'll put it all in the show notes. This has been awesome. Thanks again for coming out here, man.
Loved it. Didn't even have to leave my house, Casey. It was super easy.
I know. At least you're not still in your PJs. Actually, we don't even know. But all right, man. Well, this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show, everyone. Hey, if you learned something here, and I know you did because I just took like 4 pages of notes, share this with someone else. Share it on the YouTubes, on the Twitters, all the different platforms. Get it to someone. Send them a link and email so they can learn from this too. Especially if you know someone that as Jeremy was saying, they've got that situation and they fit, and maybe they're fat too. Get them that information so they can go over there. But this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show, guys. Hey, we'll catch you next time.